Yes, sir. I don't know if I understand the comment.
Let's read your first sentence. Let's read of paragraph 18. It was not unusual for the provincial commanders to be based at the provincial office, although the preference is to be based where your team is based. So that last part, where your team is based, gives me the distinct impression that you are able to say that a team is based at such and such a place. Do you follow me thus far?
I follow you, Commissioner.
Yes. Now, and you say, once the two brigadiers who competed for the provincial headship with General Sinona, once they had retired,
yes,
their replacements were then placed where their teams were based. Am I correct thus far?
You're correct, Commissioner.
Yes. So
all those teams, sorry to come in, all those teams are based in Durban but not in provincial office.
they are based in Durban.
Yes.
All right. So, and your team, you say your team is based where?
I've got one team that is also in Durban.
In Durban.
Yes.
All right. Does that mean you have another team elsewhere?
Yes, Commissioner, but I will still be
Okay,
coming.
all right. I'll leave it. Thank you, Brigadier. I think you were to start at paragraph 19.
In September or October 23, a prominent businessman from Watuguza was kidnapped. Captain Enoch was the investigating officer and Lieutenant Colonel Cavender was the head of the tracing team. The members work on this case. At some point, I realized that I was not kept up to date with the progress of the investigation. I called Captain Enoch. He's now a lieutenant colonel. That's why I keep on mistaking the investigating officer, and I inquired why I was not being updated. And he told me that the team was reporting direct to the General Sinona. I told him that I still expected to be kept informed, even if they were reporting to General Sinona. Following the investigation, 2 Mozambican nationals and a policeman were arrested relating to kidnapping. One of the suspects was Mr. Nangi. The NPA took the decision to withdraw the case against the suspect and lodge a complaint to DPCI head office regarding the manner in which the investigation was handled. General Sinona, Lieutenant Colonel Cavender, other member, and I were charged for misconduct, and the disciplinary proceedings are not yet finalized. Apart from the above disciplinary action and the precautionary suspension relating to Potchefstroom, I do not have any other disciplinary matters.
What were you charged with in connection with the kidnapping investigations?
The misconduct was that we failed to manage the case. As a result of that, it was withdrawn by the NPA, because NPA also wrote a letter, a complaint to head office stating the reason why the matter was withdrawn.
Yes, please continue.
Thank you. Serious organized crime section duties as the provincial commander. My duties, amongst others, are to ensure that project and major investigations are conducted by serious organized crime sections against identified individuals, so-called high flyers and criminal groupings and syndicates. The serious organized crime section has 3 sections, namely serious organized crime units, crimes against the states, CATS, and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission section, TRC. TRC is staffed by contract workers, members that are retired and apply again as contract members. In Soki, there are 3 units, namely, I should say sections. in Soki. There is a national priority, violent crime, NPVC, South African Narcotics Enforcement Bureau, SANAP, and economic protected resources. Each unit has a unit commander and a team leader. The team leader reports to the unit commander, who reports to me as the provincial commander. In KZN, there are 5 Soki units. There's one in Durban, Potchefstroom, Pietermaritzburg, Richards Bay, and Newcastle. SANAP Caesar on the 22nd of June 2021. On the 22nd of June 2021, I was on duty when I received a call from Warrant Officer Mpangase from the SANAP section. He reports to Lieutenant Kenneth Jacob, who was the SANAP team leader at the time. He is now a unit commander of the same unit, Durban. Warrant Officer Mpangase informed me that he was contacted by crime intelligence regarding suspected drug in a shipping container at Isipingo. He told me that he was attending the operation with Lieutenant Kenneth Jacob and Warrant Officer Spear. Also, Warrant Officer Spear is a member of Soki, but at that time, 4 EPR unit. There was nothing unusual about the call because members would call me about operation that they were busy with or attending to. I am not a direct reporting line for these members. They reported to Colonel Rom, who at the time was a former retiree who had been offered a short-term contract. As stated, Lieutenant Kenneth Jacob was the SANAP team leader, but he was also a EPR team leader. Whereas my expertise was murder and robbery and police murders, Lieutenant Kenneth Jacob's expertise was drugs investigation. When I joined as the provincial commander of Soki in 2020 August, Lieutenant Kenneth Jacob was already in SANAP. In fact, he is a former DSO member, and when he came to the police, he was already working at SANAP. In June 2021, we had been working together for 10 months. I relied on him as the SANAP team leader. Drug investigation were not within my area of expertise, and even now. Later that morning,
Sorry, Brigadier. Can you just explain or clarify the reporting relationship between Colonel Jacob, yourself, and Colonel Lomo? How did it work?
Thank you, Commissioners. Colonel Jacob is supposed to report to Colonel Lomo, and Colonel Lomo will in turn report to me. That's a lie.
Okay, thank you.
Later that morning, I received a call from Lieutenant Colonel Jacob informing me that the team searched a container at Isipingo container depot and found 27 black bag containing bricks suspected to be cocaine. I told Colonel Jacob to ensure that all necessary and relevant aids were called to the crime scene. I did not have to tell him this because he is a well-experienced investigator, but it was just something I said at the time during the conversation. Thereafter, I called General Sinona to inform him of the discovery, and I told him I will update him. A while later, perhaps shortly after noon, Lieutenant Colonel Jacob called me and told me that the team encountered a problem at Isipingo who would not allow the exhibit to be stored at Isipingo police station. He also told me that he had exhausted all of it. By this, I understood him to mean that he had contacted the nearby police station to store the exhibit and had been unsuccessful. I told him I will try to find space somewhere and I'll call him back. I contacted Brigadier Madlanga and Colonel Kuzwai of the Forensic Science Laboratory in Amanzimtoti to find out if they had space to store the exhibit. I do not recall if I got hold of Brigadier Madlanga or if I did. And he may have told me to call Colonel Kuzwai, but I do recall speaking to Colonel Kuzwai that afternoon. I asked her if FSL had a space to store the exhibit, and she said they did not. I was not aware that Lieutenant Colonel Jacob had also called FSL because he did not tell me. He only said that he had exhausted all avenues, and to me, that just meant the police, the local police station.
Brigadier, where is Colonel Zomo in all this process? I understood that in your response to Commissioner Baloyi, you said Colonel Jacob reported to Colonel Zomo. But here he's now calling you directly and you are taking all these steps. Where is his immediate supervisor in all this process?
I understand, commissioners. He was at the office, but he was never consulted because I think they felt that he did not know much about the operational matters because he was a retiree coming back to work again.
What confuses me is you emphasize that you are not the direct line. They don't report to you. They report to Colonel Zomo.
Yes,
but now it seems like on this matter, they did not regard Colonel Zomo as somebody they should speak to. You were there for the purposes of this operation. You were, in fact, the person they reported to.
I admit, commissioners. I think I'm in 31. I then remembered that when I was the unit commander at Potchefstroom, the premises had 2 strong room safe. What made the property attractive for the DPCI was that the landlord had informed us that those safes could not be breached. They could only be accessed with the key. I was aware of the security lapse at the premises, such as the alarm not working after load shedding, but my main focus was the safe that could be used since it was very secure and could only be accessed with the key. I was also aware that hashish compressed dachau was stored in one of the safe until it was disposed of without any problem. Commissioner, I must also mention that this hashish was from Durban Organized Crime Unit. The investigating officer then was Captain Gopalsamy. And I was still a unit commander when it was brought. In 2018, all Menres tablets were seized at the large clandestine laboratories in Harding and was stored in the same safe until the exhibit was disposed of without incident. I called General Snona and informed him of the dilemma and suggested the strong room at Potchefstroom premises. He agreed and instructed me to instruct the acting unit commander at Potchefstroom, Lieutenant Colonel Princeton, to prepare the safe for the exhibit. General Snona also instructed me to instruct Lieutenant Colonel Princeton to get the spare key to the safe from the supply chain management. Thereafter, I called Lieutenant Colonel Princeton and instructed him to prepare the safe. I also contacted Lieutenant Colonel Jacob and informed him of the arrangement and told him to liaise with Lieutenant Colonel Princeton. General Snona also instructed me to arrange for the provincial tracking team to escort the investigators from Isipingo to Potchefstroom DPCI Soki, which I did. A while later, at approximately 1500 hours, General Snona instructed me to go with him to Isipingo to oversee the operation. I did not think this was untoward because it is a big drug bust and a senior leadership. He wanted to oversee the operation. We drove with my car, and as we were approaching Isipingo, we contacted the team, but they informed us that they were already on their way to Potchefstroom offices. We changed course and headed to Potchefstroom. Upon arrival, the exhibit had already been placed in the strong room, and I could see that they were still in their 27 black bags. Warrant Officer Mpangase and Sbiya were present. I asked Warrant Officer Mpangase why the exhibit were not in the exhibit bags. He informed me that Isipingo SAPS did not have exhibit bag, but that the exhibit were entered into the Isipingo SAPS and booked out again. This was a concern for me because as an investigator, I knew that the chain of custody must be preserved. However, since I was informed by Warrant Officer Mpangase Warrant Officer Mpangase had remained with the exhibit throughout, the chain of custody was preserved. I accept now that once the team left the crime scene without the exhibit being placed in the exhibit bag, the evidence was already compromised. However, at the time, I told Warrant Officer Mpangase to ensure that the exhibit are placed in the bag and entered into the SAP13 to preserve the integrity of the evidence. The strong room was locked, and the General Snona asked that both set of keys, original and spare keys, be given to him. Warrant Officer Mpangase gave both set of keys to General Snona in my presence. At the time, it made sense to me that the provincial head should take the keys because this was a big drug bust, and who better to have ownership and responsibility over the keys than the provincial head, especially since the safe could not be accessed without the keys. The following day, 23rd of June 2021, General Snona called me and told me that to inform Lieutenant Colonel Prinsloo that Warrant Officer Mpangase will be going to the strong room to take samples of the exhibit. I called Lieutenant Prinsloo and relayed the message. I was not sure why the sample will be taken because it is not my area of expertise, but I knew that Warrant Officer Mpangase, the investigating officer, will have to place the exhibit in the exhibit bag and book the exhibit into the SAP13. I had no further involvement with the exhibit because it was the investigating officer responsibility to ensure that the exhibits make their way to the FSL and that the investigation is finalized so that the exhibit